Hey guys, Theron Asbury here with Revital Outdoors, bringing you another exciting podcast tonight. Tonight we have Mr. Bill Merrick. He finished fourth place last year in the Choo Choo Division BFL Guntersville event. So we're very, very excited to have another top 5 angler from that event going to join us on our podcast. And we're going to talk about what he did last year a little bit and then what he suspects the tournament will be won on this year. So very, very exciting content coming your way. Real quick before we get started, if you've been enjoying these podcasts and you're liking everything that we're posting on our YouTube page, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like and comment on this video. And once you subscribe, you will get notified when we drop all of our content, all of our podcasts, interviews with professional anglers and people out in the hunting world. Just everything that we're doing, you'll get notified of that. So real quick before we bring Bill in, just a little background on him. He's been fishing BFLs for multiple years. He's amassed a little over $50,000 in earnings. He qualified for the 2017 BFL All-American. The guy knows his stuff and just a native to Tennessee, and he fishes multiple divisions, the Music City, the Choo Choo, the Volunteer, and just all around a very well-rounded angler. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring him in. Bill, how you doing this evening?
Good. How are you, Theron? It's a pleasure to be on here.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be on here. So, yeah, man, how's your winter been? How's your start to 2022 going on? And what are you looking forward to this year?
Well, I'm looking forward to 2022 after 2020 and 2021. It was a challenge, but yeah, winter's been good. Mostly deer hunted. I do a little bit of hunting in the fall and take a little break from fishing. It gets me fired up and ready for the spring when it comes. This year it's coming early. I know this tournament that's coming up on the 5th will be, I think it's a week earlier than it was last year. I think that's right. And then, of course, I had the Toyota Series down there that I fished also, and then the Rattle Traps all in that same month. So it's a busy month of February.
Absolutely. It's springtime. Fishing season's kicking around. You live in a great part of the world where the fishing in the springtime is absolutely phenomenal. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a mecca. I mean, you got all the lakes around, even where I live here in Middle Tennessee, and they're really good. There's smaller lakes, not quite as big but the Tennessee River. I mean, what else can you say? I mean, it's up and down. It's good from end to end.
Right.
No lakes go up and down, but certainly Guntersville is a Hall of Fame lake as far as I'm concerned.
I absolutely agree. I don't think there's a more nostalgic tournament lake in the country than Lake Guntersville. Multiple championship events with Major League Fishing and Bassmaster, multiple professional league events have been fished there. I mean, there's been tournaments dated back into the 70s on Lake Guntersville. So it's definitely tried and true to bass fishing, and it continues to really produce the numbers really well.
Yeah, and it seems like no matter what happens, it changes, from time to time. Eelgrass is the new big thing in there. Versus the hydrilla and the coontail and all the other stuff that's in there, but milfoil. And it's certainly it's become a little different lake over the years. I can remember fishing there, 15 years ago and weighing in 25-pound bags, and that was really common, and it's still today.
Right. Oh, yeah. Very much so. Very much so. Well, talk us through a little bit last year. Again, top 5 finish, Lake Guntersville, BFL Choo Choo Division. How did your practice go? How did you anticipate the tournament? You had a little over 19 pounds. So walk us through kind of how your day went last year.
The day, I mean, walking up to it, I guess I'd look at it as the practice. I didn't practice too much. I only practiced 2 days. I was using that tournament as a precursor to the Toyota, and just kind of using it as a practice time too. And I just had a really good day. In fact, I stopped in my first spot, and which I had a little off the river channel. It's right there, pretty much on the main river, and caught a keeper or two, and really not much. In fact, I was a little bit like, uh-oh, because that lake changes so much, and the water levels fluctuated a little bit more in these last few years than it has in the past. But then I went into a secondary area that I had that I felt it was going to do good. It was a big area. And the one thing about Guntersville is in the spring, not so much in the fall, but in the spring, you can find big pods of fish. And this was a big school. And I sat in there probably for 4 hours and caught everything that I weighed. I actually left off of it a little bit because I didn't want to overdo it on that too good that day with the with the Toyota coming up. So went there and fished some other stuff. I think I called one time after that, but it was a good day.
Right. So, okay. Do you like to fish the bridges? Do you like to fish riprap, grass? What's your kind of bread and butter on Guntersville?
That lake is so diverse. I mean, you have opportunities up and down the lake. I in this particular tournament caught what I would call shallow, which is under 8 foot. But you could fish everything from an A rig, out on the main channel, and some of the deeper, 15, 18, 25 foot this time of the year and catch them. You could fish a single swim bait. That particular tournament was shallow for me, and I just that's where I just stuck to. I wanted to stick to one thing that day and just see how well I could do.
Right. Yeah, completely understandable. So the results last year speak for themselves. Do you think you can defend your top 5 this year? Are the conditions lining up to be about the same kind of tournament this year, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think it is. I think I don't know. Obviously, areas come and go. Let's never try to fish what I fished last year because that usually doesn't work. But yeah, there'll be an area in that 8 foot or less that'll have fish, and they're there now. So that's and there'll be some deeper fish. I think the way the winter's going, we've had pretty cold and it's earlier. There may be a little more on the main channel than what there is in the pockets and in the creeks, but there's always fish everywhere on that lake. It's just a matter of figuring out what they want, and that's that's always the challenge is trying to get. You could fish. The guy in the back of the boat could be fishing something just a little bit different, and it's and they won't bite. And it's amazing how tuned in they get to something. And if you could find 2 or 3 of those somethings, you really got something, going. There's no doubt about it. For me last year, obviously it was I was throwing a square bill and a chatterbait and or type of chatterbait, but and that's pretty much what I caught everything on. There was I fished a jig a little bit. Don't ever forget a jig. I mean, let's go staple in the boat. I got more of them in the boat than I got anything. And I did call one fish with a jig later on in the day that was down a little farther. I mean, it was probably in 12, 14 foot, but that's kind of how I used that day was to just run around, check different stuff and just see how it was going to turn out.
Okay. Not necessarily just fishing Guntersville, but just Bill Merrick in general. Do you like to run and gun, or do you like to stay in one area and pick it apart, or?
I like to milk an area for everything it's worth. I'll be honest with you. If I can do it, but I will run. I mean, in the fall, you better be, you got to run up and down the lake and run. You got one fish spots, that's the way the fall is. But in the springtime, you could they're coming, if you could figure out not where they left, but where they're going and be there, and they just keep coming. And they just, in that lake especially, it's incredible how fast it replenishes from day to day. And you can go out there and do good. I mean, those guys in the Toyota series where I didn't do well, I mean, I think I finished 40 something, 46 or somewhere. It was bad. But they pretty much 20-pound it to death every day. So, I mean, they were in areas where they could go back and just keep going and going and going. So,
Right. So, okay. Well, you're a native of Tennessee. What is your home lake?
I live right between Old Hickory and Percy Priest, which are 2 quite different lakes. Priest is like a big giant rock pile, and it's just rock from end to end, but it's a fun lake to fish. And it's another lake that just continues to knock it out of the park, especially it's so close to, a metropolitan area like Nashville. It gets fished hard, and it has a tournament on it every day, pretty much in the summer, and in the winter, 2, 3 a week. It never gets a break, and it's not a big lake, but it constantly puts out 19, 20-pound bags on a regular basis. And smallmouth, that's the cool thing about it too. Is it's got smallmouth in it, and you can whack it pretty hard. Old Hickory's a little tougher. That lake's just starting to come back, in my personal opinion. It used to have grass in it 10, 12 years ago, and it's come back. It's got a lot of grass now, and it certainly has started to come around. I mean, there's some good bags to be caught in there, and it's getting better every year. So, but it's fun.
Okay.
Those are the two that I frequent the most, I guess.
Right. So, okay. Well, you really intrigued me. You said you're kind of a jig fisherman.
Yep.
Walk us through, like, do you hand tie your own jigs, or what brand do you use? And, like, what's your favorite? Like, for instance, in the wintertime, this is a really good technique is jig fishing. So kind of walk us through, for the anglers out there that are just starting to kind of hone in on their jig skills, because it's kind of a finesse technique. What do you like to do when it's fishing jigs?
It is. And in the wintertime, I usually try to focus on rock.
Mm-hmm.
Grass is not as good till later up in the year. Generally speaking, those bass are looking for that crawfish hatch in the spring, and that they're that little red color. That's why red does so well in the spring. But certainly, Meanmouth Lures, a little local Tennessee company, makes jigs the way I want them made. They're really good at that. Tim and Cinnamon Turrentine do a great job of putting together a good hook, and that's a lot of it. And the right jig, head angle for getting out of rocks, getting through rocks. Priest is, notorious for they get in those cracks. There's long limestone cracks, and in them cracks, those bass sit down in there and wait for them crawfish, and it's a great place. Guntersville, along the main river channel, there's some good rock areas, points and stuff like that. I fish a jig so many different ways. It's hard for me to hone in on one that's the ticket. But generally speaking, I pretty much hop a jig. I'm trying to get a reaction bite, even though I'm fishing a slow bait or a finesse bait, and like these little jigs, little ball head jig, half ounce, 7/16, probably my favorite go-to. That's going to be and just some type of craw imitation on the back. You can whatever, chunk or craw. But the one thing about a jig is just like this big giant piece of meat here, plastic gets the right bites. Generally speaking, gets the right bites.
Right.
So that's the extremes. I'll fish that giant 9-inch chunk of plastic and that little bitty jig and catch a lot of the same fish.
Okay, really? All right. Fishing a jig, you talked about fishing rock. This time of year, do you ever mix in fishing some wood and some brush piles if you can find them, or?
Brush always holds fish. I always think there's fish and brush piles like to suspend more than they're on the bottom, at least from my experience. So I'll usually fish something through the brush. And generally speaking, a jig doesn't get it done as well as what a spinner bait or a crankbait, square bill, something like that through the brush. Even in the old notorious A-rig, if you can set it up right and get the right hooks, weedless hooks on it and stuff, and run it right through that brush, it's amazing what's in there.
Right. I was going to ask, are you an A-rig fisherman?
I had to for a while just to keep up. It's lost its luster, and the bass have gotten used to it, just like we figured they would. Everybody's
Right.
like, "Oh, that's the end of fishing." Well, not really. They'll get used to it, and they did. They don't hit it like they used to. They're a lot more tentative when they bite. It used to be they'd try to take the rod out of your hand. Now it's
right.
Now it's like I don't know if I should eat that or not.
Right. It turned into. It's amazing in a short amount of time from when it was introduced in 2012 how it just turned into another bait in the box.
Another bait, exactly. Another tool
Right.
that you can sometimes you catch one or two on it, and maybe you have a good day on it.
Right. So, well, Bill, wrapping things up here, we've had a lot of great information you've given us, and we appreciate that. What do you suspect the weights are going to look like this year? If an angler is getting ready for the BFL Choo Choo Division on Guntersville, what do you think it's going to take to win? What do you think it's going to take to cash check?
Always that 20 to 25 pound range is going to be unless something happens drastic, like you get 6 inches of rain or something 2 days before the tournament. It's going to take something like that to hold it out, or you get some, because even cold fronts or anything like that, that lake it just produces no matter what. I'm going to guess, if I have 19 pounds, I'll finish somewhere in the top 10. That's about it. Because I've seen it where you can go down there and have 20, 22 pounds and hardly get a check, because it can produce. I don't suspect, BFLs are a little tougher where you fish by yourself. It'll probably be in that 20 to 22 range, 23 range. That'll win it probably.
Okay. So we'll wrap things up, Bill. We want to thank you again for coming on to our podcast, but we want to give you one final minute. Is there any sponsors you want to thank, or friends or family, or anybody that supports you or anything like that?
Absolutely. I run a Phoenix boat. I've been with National Marine for a long time, and Gary Klaus has been a pretty good friend of mine for a long time, dating back into the Stratus era. And, National Marine does a great job up here in Middle Tennessee with Phoenix boats, and obviously Mercury. They're a great sponsor. Lithium Pro batteries, I love them. That's one thing that I've switched to that I really enjoy. I've got one big starting battery and one trolling motor battery now. I don't have to run 3 or 4 batteries back there. I got 2 of them. So, and with today's modern electronics, you better have something good back there, because it's hard to keep them running all day with all the stuff going on. But certainly, Mean Mouth Lures has put out some really good products. I'll be taking to Guntersville and these little and game day. I've done the same thing. They made some baits that I'm going to try out down there, and little swim baits are on the back of my chatterbait. So looking pretty cool, and obviously looking forward to that tournament. It's going to be fun, and it could be anything from, I've seen that lake would only put out with a jerk bait. You better have a jerk bait tied on. If it only puts out with a crankbait, you better have a crankbait tied on. But something will catch them down there, guarantee it. Unless, like I said, Mother Nature throws us a big curveball.
Correct. So, well, Bill, it's been an honor for you to be on our podcast. We wish you the best of luck. And, we hope that we get to the opportunity to interview as well, because that means you've done well in the tournament. So hopefully we get the chance to interview again.
Yeah, hopefully that works out good. I'd love to be back on here because of that.
Okay, I appreciate that. So, well, Bill, thank you again for being interested in Revital Outdoors and being on our podcast, and good luck this year fishing the BFLs.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Yep, you bet. All right, another exciting podcast over Lake Guntersville, the Choo Choo Division for the BFL tournament that's happening in 2 weeks. We're very excited to have Bill Merrick. He finished again in the top 5 last year in the tournament, and just wish him all the best of luck this coming year, and hopefully he can defend his top 5 finish. Again, if you've never heard of Revital Outdoors products, or you're interested in learning more about CBD for the outdoor enthusiast, check out our website, www.revitaloutdoors.com. There you can find all the information about our products, as far as our full lineup of products, including creams, oils, soft gels with melatonin to help you sleep better at night. All of these products are designed to help all outdoor enthusiasts with their aches and sorenesses in their back and in their shoulders. Head to toe inflammation relief, helps you sleep better at night. Just everything that you endure as outdoor enthusiasts, we take a wear and tear on our bodies, and that's why we developed Revital Outdoors, to help you with that. Also, check out our social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram, where we're always uploading new content. And if you're interested in becoming on our pro staff, check out our website. Also, hit the pro staff tab. Go ahead and hit the join pro staff and fill out the application. We'd be happy to review it. We take anybody from the smallest weekend warrior all the way up to a professional angler that's making a full-time living, paying the bills, fishing. We take all applications, so check that as well. From all of us at Revital Outdoors, thank you for tuning in to another awesome podcast. I'm Theron Asbury. We will talk to you another time. Be safe out there, and God.